I recently put out some videos on a new yellow and blue Suzuki LT500R quad racer nicknamed the Quadzilla and went through the rebuild process. And I recently picked up a second Quadzilla from a local friend of mine who had several other projects, so decided to let this one go. And they let me know up front that this Quadzilla has some transmission issues. So this is the first video in a series that I'm putting together on that new custom red Quadzilla. This first video is going to go over cleaning up some general parts and polishing, refurbishing the suspension. The next video in the series, we're going to crack into the motor. Definitely going to need some work, so I'm going to start breaking it down. I'm going to check all the bearings. We'll refinish any of the parts that need refinishing and just go through it completely. I have to pull the engine that has a transmission issue. The previous owner told me that it pops out of either third or fourth gear. When I took it for a ride, I was able to run it through all five. It did feel like there was some kind of slippage in either fourth or fifth gear. So I don't know if it's a gear issue. Maybe the dogs are worn on one of the gears. We'll tear it down and we'll check it out, and I will update you with what we find. The weather's nasty out right now, so I'm just gonna start with some easy stuff. I set up my polishing table. I'm gonna take off the shifter. It's got some corrosion and some rust on there. I'll take off these foot pegs, start working on those. I'm gonna pull off the front shocks, start taking those apart. Hopefully these adjusters aren't bound up. Rear shock definitely needs to be rebuilt. It's done. The rear can be rebuilt. The fronts are not rebuildable, but they feel like they're all right. I gave it a quick look and just started making a list of all the pieces that I see that are missing. So this Quadzilla has a rear end. It's been converted. This is ProLink from a TRX 250R. I also have the original full floater. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. I'm gonna start off with this abrasive fiber wheel, and then I'll work my way over the cotton polish wheel. All right, so you can see this rusty steering arm. We're working on this. You can see the difference. This is how it turned out after I polished it up. I'm going to put a clear coat on this too. So next I'm going to tackle this pipe. You can see I already did a little bit on the end. I'm going to make this look like new. Okay, so now I'm working on the front shocks. They were a little stuck. This one is still stuck. One of the reasons why these adjusters are so stuck is because this one was put on backwards. These ridges here are not supposed to be butted right up against each other. When they do, they get stuck. You see there's a little spacer built into this side. That is supposed to go up against this to leave a little tiny bit of space in between these two adjusters so they don't get stuck. This one was the same way, but this one was not stuck as bad as this one, so this one's giving me a little bit harder time. Now I'm working on the springs. I did the outside layer. This one, now I'm going to do the outside layer of this one. Now the inside of this, I'm not going to do it with the machine. I'm basically going to be scratching the surface. I'm not going to take it completely off like I did on the outside, just because it's difficult to get in there. Alright, suspension's done. I have it back in. I basically just polished the aluminum parts, painted the springs from yellow to black. I did 2 coats of primer, 3 coats of black, and 2 coats of clear on top. That one as well. For these pegs, the welds were really, really bad, and they were really rusty. So I grinded them down a little bit as best as I could, took the rust off, polished up the steel as best as I could, and then I sprayed it with a clear coat so they don't rust again. Did both of these. Turned out pretty good. A lot better than how it was. You have these mounts welded on for the Nerf bars. And these are front fender mounts, so this eliminates that front crossbar that the fenders mount to. And this actually bolts to the top motor mount. So if you have a big exhaust and you can't use that crossbar, these are the type of mounts that you want to use. These are homemade, but they definitely do the job. I just got the new tires mounted on the OEM Suzuki 500 wheels. They look good. I was having an impossible time getting the bead to break on the old tires to change them out. So finally, I went and I picked up this manual bead breaker. So I saw a video on YouTube where a guy just drove over the corner of the tire with his SUV to break the bead. And that's how I did it on these, and it worked fine. But for some reason, on this one, the tires were too old and they were dry rotted, but they just kept folding over and the bead wouldn't break. So finally I gave in, drove over to Harbor Freight, and I picked this thing up. So basically, put your wheel up on your bench. You have this piece that actually locks into the wheel. Before you do that, you slide this under the tire. My arm blocking the view. So you slide this under the tire, and then this tighten down. And then once it's on there, you turn that, and this thing pushes the bead down. And it worked like a charm. It popped it right off with really no effort whatsoever. All right, so I've been messing around with this thing for a couple days now. I got it to the point where it's ready to fire it up. We'll see if my wiring was done correctly. I rewired the whole thing. I'm gonna give it a couple of priming kicks first, just slow. All right, now I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna find top dead center. Something's rattling in the clutch area, so I'm gonna have to open it up, see what's going on in there. I do my best to make these videos to make it easier for you in the future if you're working on similar projects. As always, thank you for watching my video. If you like the content and the information that I provide, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more great projects on the Jeep, the Corvette, the Quadzillas, and other projects around the house.